In this video, I'm going to show you how you can send your first envelopes using Docusign, whether you're using templates or sending a one-off document. Let's get into it. Let's imagine that you want to send this bank information form to one of your new starters, one of your candidates. So you have form type documents where there's a designated area for text to be entered if you're collecting information and not only signatures. But you also have documents like this offer letter where the information is not entered by the person who is signing the document, but by the person who is sending a document. So in your case, if you're acting as the HR in this example, you will have to fill in candidate first name, candidate last name, and all the other information. And the only thing that the signer will have to do is to sign in their designated area. So in this video, we're going to explore both ways of sending those documents for signature. So we'll start in Docusign and then go to agreements and start now. I'm now showing you how to create what is called an envelope. An envelope is the container. You can think about it as the same as an email. The envelope is the email that contains the document that you're sending for signature. And so we're going to start with the bank information form, and we can upload as many documents as we want inside of our Docusign envelope. And if we upload multiple documents, then we can decide in which order which document should be presented. So for example, here I've uploaded 2 documents. I can reorder the documents. So for example, if I want my W4 to be first, I can reorder them. But in this example, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to keep one of the 2 documents instead of 2. Then once you've uploaded your documents, the second step is to add your recipients. You can add up to 99 recipients. I haven't seen any use case where you had 99 recipients for the same document, but technically that's possible. And here what you need to do is just to enter the name and email of the recipient. In this example here, I'm going to add my name, but just to make this demo easier to understand, I'm going to replace my last name with employee so that you understand which of the 2 recipients is going to do which action. Because in this document here, it's just the employee who is going to be signing the document. And actually there isn't even a signature area on this document, but we're going to pretend that they need to sign this document. And then here, if you had another, actually, you know what, we're going to replace the document. We're going to start with the offer letter, because the offer letter needs to be signed by 2 people. So this is what we're going to do here. And before I forget, in case we haven't met before, my name is Sofiane Saudi. I used to be a Docusign implementation consultant back in 2019. And since 2020, I founded Solution Consulting, where we help organizations drowning in paperwork automate their document workflows. If your team is spending a lot of time on paperwork, there is a huge opportunity for you to automate most of your workflow. For example, you can do things like creating documents automatically without having to copy-paste them from your CRM or from whatever database you're using. You can also get the status of the signature request in Docusign synced back inside of your CRM, so you never have to wonder whether your documents have been signed or not. And when the documents are signed, those documents can get automatically stored back inside of your OneDrive, Google Drive, SharePoint, and they even get renamed the way that you like. All of this automatically. And if in your documents you're collecting data and not just signatures, you can also extract all the information that your recipients enter when filling out the form back inside of any system that you use every day. And to do this, you need to learn how to map out your workflow, learn how Docusign works, build your Docusign template, and then integrate those Docusign templates in all the apps that you use every day so that you can fully automate the workflow. And this is something you can absolutely do on your own. But if you don't have the time or capacity or willingness really to become Docusign experts like we are, you can outsource these tasks to our team. You can use the link in the description down below to book a consultation with one of our Docusign automation consultants. During the call, we will assess your workflow and give you a custom implementation roadmap based on your unique needs. But if you're more of a DIY person, you can download our Docusign Mastery Cheat Sheet. It will help you get started with Docusign on the right foot. Now let's go back to the tutorial. We're going to use the offer letter instead of the bank information form because it will make more sense to you, I believe. So in this document here, we have the variable information that needs to be entered by the HR who is preparing the employment offer document. And then the recipient number one will be the employee because they will need to sign, and then the HR manager needs to countersign. So we need to add two recipients, the employee and the employer. I'm going to call it HR because it's easier to see the difference. And then the next step could be for me to add a message, a custom email subject and email message. But if we leave things like this, then my two recipients are going to be signing at the same time. As you can see, the sender, those are my initials, Sofian Saudi. And then in position one, we have Sofian employee and then Sofian HR. And they're signing in parallel at the same time. But that's not what you would typically want in this scenario. You would always prefer to have the employee to sign first, and then the HR or the hiring person to sign in the second position. So what we want to do is to set a signing order. And by clicking on this box, now we have numbers against each recipient. And we can see that Sofian is signing in position 1 and HR in position 2. If we click here, we can now see the sender, that's me, then Sofian employee, then Sofian HR. That means that Sofian HR will not receive the envelope to sign until Sofian employee has completed the document. We can customize the email subject here. I can say complete with Docusign your offer letter, and I can also include an email message if I want to. I can categorize this envelope using one of the predefined envelope types. This is just to help you categorize the envelopes by type of transactions that you're creating. If we click next, then here we're brought to the document Docusign tagging page. And so this page here is to add the field for our recipients to fill in. And so what we want to do is we want to drag those fields and place them on the document. The way that you know whether this is assigned to the employer or to the employee is by looking at the color. Here we have two signers. Sofian employee has the yellow color, Sofian HR has the blue color. So that means that when we drag and drop our fields, and if they're yellow, it's going to be for the employee to sign. And obviously here I've made a mistake because it's not, this area here is not for the employee to sign, but it's for the employer to act on. So I'm going to move my signature field in here and then drag a name field as well as a date signed field. The date signed field and the name field are automated field, meaning that the recipients will not need to do anything. The recipient full name will be pulled from what you've entered in the previous step. So in here, that will be pulled automatically. And then the date signed is also hard-coded in Docusign. It will be populated based on the date that the recipient signs the document. So that will be automatically populated. The only thing the employee will have to do is to click on sign here and add their signature. I'm going to do the same thing for the employer, but I want to save time. Instead of drag and drop 3 new fields, I'm going to copy those fields and do Command and D for duplicate and drag those fields over so I don't have to do it manually one at a time. However, I want to assign those fields to the employer, so I have to change the recipient to whom those fields are assigned to by using this drop-down menu here, and now my fields turn blue. If you have a little bit of OCD like me and you want to make sure your field fully aligned, then you want to align them to the top. So select each group of fields one line at a time and align them to the top, and then do the same thing vertically as well using those aligning tools here, which are really nice. Now I could click on send, but the problem is that I'm not able to change this information in here because the account that I've logged in does not have Docusign document generation, which allows you to change the text of the document directly inside Docusign. You can watch my how to use Docusign mail merge video to learn how you can do that, but that's a paid add-on. It's not included in the standard Docusign Business Pro account. So in this case, I cannot really use this document. What I need to do is to actually upload the document that's already filled in. So I have to go with another document that I believe is already on my computer. So I can replace this document that I've included here with an offer letter that is filled out. And so that's what I'm going to do now. And you don't have to do it this way. I just showed you can upload the right document from the get-go. I just wanted to explain that you cannot actually edit the document inside of Docusign unless you have the Business Pro subscription. And here, because the document that I've uploaded is a little bit shorter, and my fields aren't aligned, so I'm going to move them back up. But this is how you send a document for signature using Docusign. You just click on send, and then you can track the document that you just sent for signature. Now I want to show you how to configure a document that's a little bit more complex than that. And this is going to be a document where you have different field types where you need to collect information and not just a signature from your signer. So we're going to use the bank form. Actually, we're going to go back to the agreement. So I haven't clicked send actually, so we can still find the document in our draft. So I'm going to click on this document here, on this envelope, I should say. And then I'm going to replace my document one more time with this bank information document. So this is a static document. I call it static because the length of the document will never vary, because there is enough room for the variable information to be entered without affecting the length of the document. And that makes a difference. You can watch my tutorials on how to handle static documents and dynamic documents in one of my previous YouTube videos. So here what we want is for the employee to add their bank information. I'm going to delete those fields which belong to the previous document that I had uploaded. And then I'm going to click on name here. So that's for the employee. And actually, I've just realized that in this document, we don't need the HR to sign. So I can go back one step and then delete my signer completely because I don't need them on this specific document. So here we have the employee first name. So you cannot actually get the first name directly by dragging and dropping the name field. You need to customize here that you want the first name. And here we're going to duplicate this field, drag it here, and say that we want only the last name. And for the street address, this is going to be a text field. And so for this text field here, we want to make sure that the street address doesn't go over this separator here. So we're going to click on validation, actually formatting, and then fixed width. So the person cannot add more information that the length of this field will allow. For the city, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to reduce the width of this field. For the state, I'm going to use a drop-down field, but instead of setting up all the different states that I have here, so Florida, California, New York, and etc. I've done this in the past, and I've saved the field as a custom field, which means that I don't need to add all my options again because I've got a drop down for the list of states. Here's my custom field that I had built in the past, but as you can see, the font is different from those. And also, it's not required. Let's just fix the font first, and then I'm going to explain the required versus non-required scenario. So here we want to take a look at how this is formatted. So CEDA in 9, and this is 12. So this changes to 9. And now we can see that it's the same font. However, this one has a yellow outer line, but is filled in with the white color. This is because it's not a required field. This means that the recipient will be able to complete the document without selecting a state. But I don't want this to happen because this is an important piece of information that I don't want to have to chase in the future. I want to get the complete address of the employee. So I'm going to go here and click on required field. And then for the zip, I'm going to drag a text field, or I can just copy that one. It really does not matter how you do it, whatever you prefer. And here I'm going to add a validation and say that I want a zip to be entered. This means that if I try to enter anything that is not a zip, Docusign is going to reject the entry when the person fills in the field. For my SSN, I can do the same thing and go with SSN validation. If the entry doesn't match the normal pattern of what an SSN is, then the recipient will not be able to complete this document. For the email address, I'm going to drag the email field, and this email field will be automatically populated, just like the first and last name, based on the name and email that you've entered in the recipient workflow. So it will say Sofian for the first name employee for the last name, and then my email address for the email address field. Finally, for the phone number, there is no validation, so I'm just going to enter a text field here. You could create a custom validation actually by using something called a regex pattern. So if we really wanted to, we could go to ChatGPT and say, give me a regex pattern for a US phone number that works with or without brackets and hyphens. And this is going to generate a code that you can just copy and then paste inside of your inside of the regex pattern here, and then say, and here you can customize an error message and say, this phone number is not valid. And we can do a preview to check how the pattern works. So for example, let's try to enter our phone number. So Solusen's phone number. So it's 310-961-4813. And then add an A. This is telling us that it's not valid. If I remove this, it's not valid either. If I do one less character, it is now valid. So that works. Now, if I try to do a hyphen here, it still works. Hyphen still works. That's fine. However, if I try to do a +1, then I'm not sure it's going to work. It is still working. That's great. And if I try to remove one digit, then it's telling me that it's not working. So this pattern is actually quite a good one. You can get a lot of value from validating your field. Now, I've just released another video on how to verify the data. And so this is a different thing. So validation doesn't check that the information is actually correct. So Docusign is not checking at this point that the phone number actually exists. It just validates that the entry, so whatever gets entered by the recipient, looks like a real phone number. But if you want, you can use those verification fields, which you can get from the Docusign App Center. And so the way that you would do that is by going on this Get Apps link and then install one of the verification apps. I've created a video on how to verify data. I encourage you to watch it after you watch this one. Now for the bank name, we don't want anything crazy. It's just going to be a text field. There is no way to validate that. No, actually, even the verification fields don't allow to check the bank name, but you can verify the bank account number and SSN and the EIN as well. But that's not the topic for this video. So now for the street address here, I'm just going to copy all of these fields because they're exactly the same thing. However, if I want to extract the information from the Docusign document once it's been completed, because you can extract the information through a CSV or using an API to populate your CRM or any other application automatically. For now, if we were to extract information from this document, you would get a CSV file with a column for each field. And those columns won't have a meaningful name unless you label the fields. So for example, this column is called text 5B9A522. This column is called text 7AD blah, blah, blah. That's not really meaningful. So what I would recommend is to customize the field using a naming convention that looks like this. So candidate underscore address underscore line 1. And then we would do the same thing here, but instead of line 1, we would just say city. And here we would say state. And here that would be zip. And now I don't want to have to recreate all of these fields one by one with this new naming convention. So I'm going to duplicate those fields, which now contain the naming convention, and I'm just going to update the word candidate to bank. And then there is always a slug that gets created automatically when you duplicate the fields. I'm going to delete it just to keep things clean. So this is going to be bank. This is really important if you want to have clean data and you want to integrate your Docusign document inside of your other apps so that you can avoid having to copy paste. And I've done a video on how to automate your Docusign system. I really recommend you also watch this one if you want to save time, if you process a lot of documents. Now for the account number, we're going to use a text field, and the account number validation might vary actually. So we can't really validate the account number, but we could say, for example, actually, why don't we just try it? Give me a regex validation for an account number in the US. And that's the thing. So the length, it's only numbers, but it varies from 4 to 17 digits. So we can't really validate that easily inside of the Docusign account unless we use the verification apps, which is why I believe that the verification is really valuable. But here we would do the same thing. So custom pattern, this is not a valid account number. Now for the routing number, it's different because it is always going to be the same number of digits. And here we're just forcing the person to add a 9-digit number. And so we're going to grab a text and do a custom field and the pattern. And I forgot to label my field here. So this is going to be a routing number. Now for the phone number here, I'm just going to call this one candidate phone number and then duplicate my field and just change this from candidate to bank and then delete everything else after that. And for the account type, we're going to use a radio button. So with radio buttons, you can only select one option out of all the options that you have. If you had another account type, you could have another option here. And if I select savings, then it unchecks checking. But if I do the same thing with checkboxes, then you can actually select multiple options. And that's not the case here. I just want one of the two options to be selected. And this is how you send your first Docusign document. So I'm going to click send this time. And now my envelope has been sent. One more step. If you believe that you're going to be sending those documents over and over, in this case, what I would suggest that you do is that you turn this document into a template. So if you click save as template, and then you remove all personal information from the document that you have uploaded in the template and give your template a name, then you'll be able to reuse your document to send documents much faster in the future. So for example, this one could be the candidate bank info template. And then your signer, instead of signer 1, just call it candidate, employee, whatever you want. And then you save and you close it. And then if you go back, and so now instead of having to upload your document is already saved inside of your Docusign template. So you can just click on use. And if we want to add any information inside of our template, we'll just go here and then next. And here we can just pre-fill some of the fields. So 1, 2, 3, Main Street, city, and then choose your city and etc. And then once you click send, that's it. Your envelope is sent and you don't have to drag and drop all your fields. One thing that I've completely forgot to do here is to align my fields. Remember, if you're OCD, just use the vertical aligning tools as well as the horizontal aligning tools. So your document looks professional. I believe it's really important. And this is how to use Docusign to send documents for signature. If you need more help with Docusign, you can use the link in the description down below to schedule a consultation with one of our Docusign automation consultants. During the call, we'll take a look at your process and give you the best implementation roadmap for your unique needs, whether it's help building a template or an integration. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy signing.